we're going to fit an extra disk, 1 terabyte disk to this Lenovo Think Center. This is a mini PC, it's a Lenovo M910, and they're very easy to work on. To get inside, there's a single screw. You'll need a cross-went screwdriver. To remove this nut here, and we want to get to the underside. So to do that, we slide the case forward a little bit, and then you can get to this point here, and you can see it's equipped with 2 lots of 4 GB memory, so there's no room to upgrade without actually changing both of those. There's a SATA slot, but there's no connector, so you can't use that. But here there is a slot for a PCI memory, PCIe. So let's have a look inside here. So this is a solid state disk from Crucial, guaranteed 5 years, normally a very good quality, and you can see it's absolutely minuscule. Comes with a screw if you need it to attach it, but these are very good, and we shouldn't need that. There's some rubber pads there for the memory to sit on, and we've got a little tab here. So what we have to do, there's a key here which goes here, and that should be in, and then push that back in place. It's in there. Incredible when you think, when I started in IT, a 5 MB disk was the size of a suitcase, Winchester disk, and now you have a terabyte, trillion bytes. Slide the case cover back on carefully, slide the case back on, put the screw back on, and that should be that. We'll just boot it and check it's all working okay. We now need to install our new disk on our computer. The first thing we want to do is partition the disk. Partitioning basically logically divides the disk up into separate sections, so we're going to have, for example, a Windows partition and a Linux partition, or different Linux partitions. In this case, what I want to do is just create, I want to use this for the home drive for user accounts, so I just want the whole terabyte used for that, so it's going to be a single partition. And anyway, in order to partition a disk, we first need to know what the disk is known as logically by the Linux operating system. So we use the command fdisk -l, and you can see that there are 2 disks listed, dev NVM E0N1, 931 GB, that's our terabyte disk. You can see in bytes it actually is a terabyte. And the second disk is the one that was supplied with the system, which is a Kingston drive, and it's 240 gigabytes. And you can see that disk has been partitioned already into a Windows, basically various Windows file system, and also a Linux file system, so it's a dual boot disk. So it's the dev NVM0N1 that we're going to work on. You need to be very careful that you don't make a mistake and start formatting or partitioning your main drive, or you'll have to reinstall your system. So we are going to use fdisk tool again on that device. You'll notice on the previous screen that the disk label of the Linux file system is type GPT, and we want to do exactly the same with this device. So we enter the command G to create that part, a GPT partition table. Run the command again, and this time we want to create a primary partition, and we use the P command for that. Basically it's just creating one big partition, and partition number, it's actually the first partition, and we can select the defaults here. First sector is 2048 bytes in, so that's the first sector, and the last sector is the very end of the disk, which is shown there. And hit enter again, and we've created a new partition, 1, of type Linux, of 1 terabyte. We want to change the partition type, and so we enter the T command, and then we, if you look through, there's a lot of different partition types that are available, and what we want is a Linux file system, and that's partition type 20, at least in this list. Once we've done all that, before we start finalizing everything, nothing's been written so far, we can use the P command to verify our changes, and you see that our device has been has a Linux file system partition that covers the whole disk. So with the W command we can write that out, and that's done. We'll now need to format the disk, so that's basically creating a logical structure on the disk with 248 byte blocks or whatever, and we use the make file system command, and we want to make an ext4, which is a Linux file system. We give the driver label. I'm basically just giving this something that I can remember it by. It's a home disk, and again we specify the device. Don't do this on SD08, make sure you do this on your new disk. So that's done. What I'm going to do is mount this on the home directory. So any data that I had in the home directory, when I installed Linux, it created a home drive, a home directory for me as a user. I'm going to move that into the temp directory just to save it temporarily. And the home drive exists already. I'm going to delete any data that is in there to free up that space, because I've moved my home directory, so that's freed up that space. And if I use the fsblk command, I can get what I need is the unique identifier for my new drive, and that's the long string here beginning with CE, etc. And what I want to do is create a line in a file in the etc directory, in the file system tab directory. I want to create a new line for my new disk. So whenever Linux boots, it uses that fs tab directory to know what disks exist, to know what disk to mount into the file system. And in this case you can see that there's already a disk, which is my SDA1, which is the Kingston drive, which it will mount the Linux partition. It mounts that on / at the root of the file system, and I'm going to add in my new disk. So I specify the UUID, which identifies that disk, where I'm mounting it to /home, the type of file system, it's an ext4 because that's how we formatted it, and then I basically copy the similar information to above that was used to mount the root partition. If I type the command mount -a, it will read that fs tab and it will mount any drives that aren't mounted. So that will now mount that new disk onto home. If I change it to home, I can see that disk is there, and I can move my user directory as I saved in temp into home. And so when I log in, I will have my home directory. My home directory will exist. So now if I reboot the machine, I'll come back to where I was before in my home directory. I can verify the drive is mounted using the fsblk command, which will show the mount point of that drive, which we didn't see before. So there you have it. It's pretty simple to set up.